In this world, beyond Lothric Castle, you take your first steps on top of a crumbling wall in the undead settlement. There are even more pilgrims and a dragon reaching out for the castle, but the path is destroyed and they died long ago. But one of them, Yoel of Londo, is still alive and starts a great quest of Hollow that attends to you until the very end. With the castle behind you, you are traversing the homes of many undead workers. Beside those workers and some Hollow slaves, you encounter several cathedral evangelists. They were sent from the Cathedral of the Deep to enlighten the inhabitants of the settlement and send carriers on the path of sacrifice. They are highly reminiscent of the Fed officials from Demon Souls. Those officials were the ministers of King Allant, and they appeared in his kingdom of Boletaria just before the demons. Behind the dilapidated bridge, there's a small cemetery with a noticeable white birch. This birch and two other ones in Farron Keep and the cathedral are defended by a giant archer, standing on top of the abandoned church. This archer is reminiscent of another giant archer from long ago, kept imprisoned in the lost land of Ula's Seal and one of the 4 Knights of Gwyn, Hawkeye Guff. He helped Gwyn with defeating the dragons with his unmatched great bow, and even here, imprisoned and blinded. Guff is the best dragon hunter there is, and so he is defending Ula's Seal from the black dragon Kalameet.
Ha! Yes. A truer shot was never loosed. That bat will be grounded for a good spell. The rest is in thine hands. I await good tidings. Dragon slaying. Knighthood's highest calling.
The sorcerers of Ula's Seal used catalysts formed by enchanted white bark branches. Those branches and their birch trees are defended by the giant archer in Dark Souls 3, and the description of the young white branches even mentions Princess Dusk and her first sorcerer's staff. Both giants are defending the remains of Ula's Seal with their great bows and their hawk ring. In front of the abandoned church, you meet 2 other characters, Irina and Egon of Carim. She is a blind saint who wants to become a firekeeper, and he is her bodyguard. This type of duo can be found in any of the other 3 Souls games. In Dark Souls 2, beneath the Drangleic Castle and behind the Shrine of Amana, in the hindmost chamber of the Undead Crypt, you find the Hollowed King Vendrick. He is guarded by his faithful knight, Velstadt the Royal Aegis, who even serves his king in death. Just like Egon of Carim, he is wielding a giant hammer and wears a noticeable armor, but this design has its roots even earlier. In Dark Souls 1, you meet a group of clerics of the Way of White, led by Rhea of Thorolund. She is guarded by Petrus, Vince and Nico, and is wearing the same clothes as Irina of Carim. Later, you find another member of the Way of White, Paladin Leroy, who is wielding just another giant hammer and is wearing a resembling armor. But even this is not the origin of this type of duo. In the first game of the Souls series, Demon's Souls, in order to fulfill your duty at the end of the Valley of Defilement, you must kill Maiden Astraea, a saint who accepted the soul of a demon. She is guarded by her loyal knight, Garl Vinland, wielding a giant hammer and wearing a noticeable armor. A strong and heavy bodyguard with a great hammer protects a defenseless saint, a theme present in all of the Souls games. Only King Vendrick might be an exception. Even if the abandoned church marks the end of the undead settlement, there's one more reference to a former Souls game. After opening the double doors, you meet an old friend who is lost again and might need your help. Just his name has changed a bit. In Dark Souls 1, patiently sitting in front of Sen's fortress, you meet Siegmeyer of Catarina. From time to time, he needs your help to progress on his journey, and now in Dark Souls 3 you meet him again. His name now is Siegward of Catarina, but his look, his voice and his personality seems to be the same, and again he needs your help on a journey that will eventually end with another old friend. Beneath the church you are entering the Road of Sacrifices, and the Undead Legion's area of influence is not far. There once was a painted world. It was a cold and lonely place led by crossbreed Priscilla, who was wielding her life hunt scythe. The painted world of Ariamis in Dark Souls 1 was inhabited by many crow demons, humans who transformed into crow-like beings over time. On the Road of Sacrifices you meet groups of Corvians. Their name derives from Corvus, the Latin word for crow. Some of those crow-like beings are wielding scythes, similar to Priscilla's life hunt scythe, and their description even mentions the mistress of the painted world. These Corvians are guided by Corvian storytellers, who share tales of the painted world to forlorn souls. But the Road of Sacrifices is not the home of these creatures. In Dark Souls 3 there actually is a painted world, and it belongs to Father Ariandel, a crow-like king bound to his throne. At the end of this road you meet Anri of Astora and her companion Horus. Anri always has the opposite gender to yours and is part of Yoel's quest of Hollow. She or he is wearing the Elite Knight set, an armor from Dark Souls 1 and known from Oscar of Astora, a knight who helps you on your escape from the Northern Undead Asylum. Anri and Horus are in front of the Crucifixion Woods, a flooded area with crumbling ruins. They are searching the Cathedral of the Deep in order to find Aldrich. There are two possible ways for you. You can either explore the ruins, kill the Crystal Sage and visit the cathedral behind him, or you climb down a ladder, guarded by two of the watchdogs of Farron, into Farron Keep. Farron Keep is described as a festering wood, and while making your first steps into the poisonous swamp, it may remind you of the swamp in Blighttown from Dark Souls 1, an equally deadly place. Even the giant leeches found their way down here, but aside from Blighttown, the nature of Farron Keep has another influence, and the giant archers watching. The history of Oolacile, known as the Lost Land, is a tragic one. It once was a peaceful land whose citizens created many light-based sorceries, while Dusk was the princess of this kingdom. But then there was a serpent who tricked them into opening the grave of a primeval man, known as the Father of the Abyss, Manus. Manus lost his precious broken pendant, or maybe the people of Oolacile took it from him. His humanity went wild and unleashed the Abyss across the kingdom. The corruption spread slowly and irresistible, even transforming the former citizens of this once golden land. The world witnessed the birth of dark magic driven by the source of the Abyss, humanity. The biblical influences in this story are obvious. A serpent tricked a kingdom, represented by a woman, into unleashing a curse. In the Bible it was the insight of good and evil. In Dark Souls it was the humanity. Farron Keep is a corrupted place as well, on top of the Abyss. It was consumed by a festering wood, just like Oolacile was consumed by the Abyss. And then there are strikingly many remains of this lost land in the swamp. There's the Golden Scroll containing the peaceful Oolacile sorceries. There's the antiquated set, the dress and the crown of Princess Dusk. There's another white birch in the swamp guarded by the giant archer. There are the mushroom people who were once ranging the Darkroot Garden, the place where the royal wood of Oolacile once grew. And there's another familiar mushroom, now dead, but once the godmother of Princess Dusk, Elizabeth, guardian of the Oolacile Sanctuary. But the story of Oolacile is not over. There was not just a serpent and a woman, but also a man. Another of the 4 Knights of Gwyn was sent out to stop the spread of the Abyss, Knight Artorias the Abyss Walker. Just like the Abyss Watchers, he fought the abominations of the Dark. The Dark Wraiths are an army of these abominations. They are known as the oldest of the Red Eye invaders, and once served the primordial serpent Darkstalker Karth. And now they are searching for the Undead Legion to face them. The Grus in the swamp and in front of the Watcher's tomb are descendants of the acolytes of Farron Keep, and they want to prevent the infiltration of the Dark Wraiths. Opening the tomb reveals the Legion's final fate. We see them fighting each other. They are not only fighting the abominations of the Abyss. Like Artorias, they got corrupted by the Abyss themselves, and therefore have to fight each other. You can see the Watcher having cracked red eyes, the invading symbol of the Dark Wraiths. The Undead Legion became what they fight. As they are undead, they are reviving again and again, resulting in an endless cycle of death and resurrection. In the first phase of this battle, single Watchers revive and join the fight against you, but also against the other Watchers. Killing that one Watcher who challenged you starts the second phase. The blood was spread amongst the Abyss Watchers, and their souls are one with the soul of the Wolf-Blood Master, as their soul description states. Now you are basically fighting the Wolf-Blood Master himself. The Watchers are all connected through Wolf-Blood. The Undead Legion is guarded by the Watchdogs of Farron, a covenant led by the Old Wolf of Farron. Their symbol is a medallion depicting the crest of a wolf, which resembles the crest of Artorias from Dark Souls 1. This wolf again is reminiscent of Artorias' companion, who could be protected from the Abyss long ago. And just like Sif, the Great Grey Wolf guarded the grave of Sir Artorias, the Old Wolf of Farron is guarding the tomb of the corrupted Abyss Watchers. But it is not just the wolf that connects them, it is also the blood. The soul of the blood of the wolf can produce one of 2 weapons. The Wolf Knight's Greatsword, obviously the sword of Sir Artorias, and the Farron Greatsword. This Greatsword is atypically paired with a dagger, which is described as a unique fighting technique. It confounds foes the manner of wolves hunting prey. Those terms like blood and prey and a unique fighting technique are all central terms in another game, Bloodborne. The whole game is based on blood, as the title suggests. Instead of souls, you collect blood echoes. You can strengthen your weapon with blood gems, and you heal yourself with blood vials. Whenever you kill a boss in this game, the message "Prey slaughtered" is shown on the screen. You are literally hunting prey throughout the whole game, and compared to the other 4 games of the series, the fighting style of a hunter is very unique. In your right hand you use a trick weapon that can be transformed into a light and a heavy mode. In your left hand, you are not holding a shield, but a firearm, and most of them are shooting projectiles. And I may overinterpret a bit at this point, but the dagger in the left hand of an Abyss Watcher bears a striking resemblance to the standard hunter pistol of a hunter. Just the trigger must be shifted a bit. The corruption of the Abyss, the reason why the Watchers kill each other, is also a theme in Bloodborne. There is a covenant in this game and they call themselves the Hunters of Hunters. The covenant's rune description states, "These watchmen admonish those who have become addled with blood. Be they men or beasts, anyone who has threatened the pledges of the Hunter Oath surely has an issue with blood." But this rune that has the meaning hunter is a special one. In all 5 games of the series, there's an item in your inventory representing the inevitable essence of your existence. In Demon's Souls, it is the Nextshell Binding. It ties you to the Nexus, and upon dying, you will always return there. In Dark Souls 1, 2 and 3, it is the Dark Sign. It marks you as an accursed undead, and no matter what you do, you can't die without being reborn. The equivalent in Bloodborne is the Hunter's Mark, etched in your mind and the symbol of any hunter. It is the same rune as the Hunters of Hunters rune, and so you are a Hunter of Hunters with or without the Covenant. In fact, you are killing a lot of hunters and beasts throughout the whole game, and the beasts in Bloodborne all were humans once. Father Gascoigne is just one example of a hunter becoming a beast. Any hunter is addled with blood, including you. There are even hints towards a connection between the hunters in Bloodborne and Sir Artorias. Ludwig was the first hunter of the Healing Church. The Radiant Sword Hunter badge states that these hunters, also known as Holy Blades, are what remains of an ancient line of heroes that date back to a very early age of honor and chivalry. You can speculate that Ludwig, the left-handed wielder of the Moonlight Sword, is a descendant of Artorias, and Ludwig's Holy Blade and the Great Sword of Artorias are somehow alike, at least their hilts are very similar. Just like the Farron Greatsword of the Undead Legion. In Dark Souls 1, in the past of Ulasil and near the arena of Artorias, you meet Chester, a person who was just like you, dragged off to the past from an unknown time and place. His clothing looks very similar to the attire of a hunter, and his primary weapon is a crossbow, a long-range weapon which is typical for a hunter. In Bloodborne, in the deepest depths of the Hintertomb Chalice dungeons, you can find a circular room. In this room are a lot of broken armors lying around and some bone piles with swords and shields stuck into them, highly reminiscent of a bonfire from Dark Souls. From Software started the development of Bloodborne right after the Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition was finished, but all those details are just hints towards a connection between the two games. And even aside from this theory, the Abyss Watchers are clearly a combination of the Hunters and Artorias, the Abyss Walker. But there is just one problem left. Artorias is not the Wolf-Blood Master, and neither is he the victor of the Abyss. He was defeated by Manus and eventually got corrupted by the Abyss. And what happened with his cursed undead existence? While playing Dark Souls 1, you gain Artorias' Wolf Ring. You visit his grave and gain another ring, the Covenant of Artorias. Its wearer, like Artorias himself, can traverse the Abyss. And you do just that, you traverse the Abyss and kill the 4 kings of New Londo. And then you are drawn into the past, meet the corrupted knight himself, slay him, save the young Sith from the Abyss, and finally defeat that monster Artorias could not defeat, Manus, father of the Abyss. Artorias' soul, which you receive for killing him, states, "The legend that Artorias repelled the Abyss only told half the story. It seems that he was defeated, and his honor preserved by some unsung hero, who is the true victor of the Abyss." At the end of Dark Souls 1, you are the Abyss Walker, and thus you are the Wolf-Blood Master. And at the end of Bloodborne, after slaying numerous hunters and beasts and even great ones, you are a hunter of hunters. When you are fighting the Abyss Watchers, you are fighting your own self from Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne, risen from their graves. They are called Old Lords of Cinder because they are old lords from previous games. All those details that connects the Legion with Artorias and the Hunters are not random or a kind of fan service. They are indeed a reincarnation of those old heroes, of your own self from the past. This does not mean that there must be a historical connection between all those games. This series was always about you, the player of these games, and so they are all connected because you played all of them. After killing the Wolfblood Master, respectively your own self, and gaining his Cinders of a Lord, an altar with a chalice opens at the rear end of the tomb. This altar reveals what the Watchers watched over, the Catacombs of Karthus, also known as the Sand Kingdom. Most enemies in this area are human skeletons, and these underground ruins are just another combination of locations from Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne. The presence of human skeletons who attack you with bombs that spread homing dark orbs upon impact, and the endless darkness below these catacombs reminds one of the Chasm of the Abyss, the birthplace of the Father of the Abyss, the humanity phantoms, and the place Artorias and you watched over. At the end of the catacombs you find another altar with another chalice. It is made of a human skull wearing an open crown. In Bloodborne, chalices are a central part of the game. They open numerous labyrinths for you to explore. One series of these chalices opens the gates to a tragic land that was devoured by the sands, Loren. The chalices leading into Loren all are made of human skulls, and they state, the tragedy that struck this ailing land of Loren is said to have its roots in the scourge of the beast, and the Chasm of the Abyss has its roots in the curse of humanity. Behind the Abyss Watchers you explore the Chasm of the Abyss and the ailing land of Loren that fell into this darkness. Upon touching the chalice at the end of the catacombs, the true nature of this darkness is revealed to you. In Dark Souls, the darkness is always synonymous with humanity. This skull chalice makes clear that humanity comes from the inside of a human and darkens the world, not the other way around. You then fight the High Lord Volnir, the conqueror of Karthus and of all crowns. It's hard to say if this giant skeletal body is his true shape, as this encounter takes place inside his mind, on the brink of endless darkness. There is a reason why Loren is called Karthus now, why you are fighting your past self, and why the painted world of Ariamis now is the painted world of Ariandel. Killing Volnir opens the gate into a cold, dark and very gentle place. A place that hides two Lords of Cinder, and the disparity between them could not be any greater.